What happens when the player who has spent weeks shocking the tennis world finally meets an opponent who refuses to be intimidated? That was the question waiting for Alex in Cincinnati. Just weeks earlier, Alex had transformed herself from an exciting young prospect into one of the most talked-about players on the WTA Tour. She had won her first WTA Tour singles title in Washington, defeating a remarkable series of opponents and beating Jessica Pegula in the final. Then she continued her momentum in Toronto, proving that the Washington triumph was not a one-week accident. Cincinnati offered another opportunity. Alex entered as the number 17 seed, the highest seeding of her career at a WTA 1000 event. She had the confidence, the crowd support, and the belief that she could challenge anyone. But standing across the net was Amanda Anisimova. This was not another revenge match. There was no old score to settle. There was no unfinished chapter between them. This was something different. A direct examination of whether Alex could maintain her incredible rise against one of the most powerful players in women's tennis. And what happened was far more complicated than a simple straight set defeat. Alex actually won the opening set. She looked ready to create another major upset. Then Anisimova changed the match. And that is where the real story begins. To understand the significance of this defeat, we have to go back to Washington, because that tournament changed the way the tennis world looked at Alex. She did not arrive there as the favorite. Instead, she built momentum one difficult match at a time. She defeated Qinwen Zheng after recovering from a difficult start, then handled Leylah Fernandez. Next came Alina Svitolina, followed by a statement victory over Naomi Osaka. Then came the final. Jessica Pegula, one of the most established players in the world, took the first set. For a moment, the dream appeared to be slipping away. But Alex refused to let the scoreboard decide the story. After the match resumed following a rain delay, she completely changed the momentum and closed the contest with an extraordinary run of games. That victory gave Alex the first WTA singles title of her career and made her the first Filipina to achieve that feat suddenly. Everything around her changed. Before Washington, a victory over a major name was an upset. After Washington, it became evidence. Evidence that Alex could compete with the best. Evidence that her left-handed game could create problems for elite opponents. Evidence that her movement, anticipation, and fearless shot-making were becoming serious weapons. But success also creates a new challenge. Once a player becomes dangerous, opponents stop treating her like a surprise. They study her. They prepare for her. They arrive with a plan designed specifically to prevent her from playing comfortably. That was the environment Alex entered in Cincinnati. Her first appearance came after a bye, and her second-round opponent was Elena Gabriela Ruse. That matchup carried its own emotional weight. 2 years earlier, Ruse had defeated Alex in US Open qualifying after Alex had taken the opening set and looked close to reaching the main draw. It was the kind of loss that can remain in a player's memory for a long time. When they met again, however, Alex controlled the contest from the start. She raced through the opening set and moved ahead in the second before Ruse was forced to retire because of a foot injury. It was not the ending Alex would have wanted, but she had still advanced. And now came the biggest test. Amanda Anisimova was ranked inside the top 10 and had already reached a career-high ranking of number 2. She had also played in 2 Grand Slam finals. More importantly, she was in excellent form. Her game presented a very different problem from the opponents Alex had recently defeated. Anisimova does not need long rallies to create pressure. She can take the ball early and redirect it with enormous pace. Her return can immediately turn a serve into a defensive situation. Her ground strokes can force opponents to retreat. And once she establishes a rhythm, she can make the court feel extremely small. For Alex, the tactical challenge was obvious. She could not simply stand on the baseline and trade power for power. She needed to disrupt Anisimova's timing. She needed to use the unusual angles created by her left-handed game. She needed to move Anisimova away from comfortable hitting positions. And above all, she needed to avoid allowing the American to dictate every point with the first 2 or 3 shots. Before the match, Anisimova acknowledged the atmosphere that would surround the contest. She knew Alex had tremendous support, especially from Filipino fans, and she said she enjoyed playing in a packed stadium. That atmosphere arrived exactly as expected. The stands were filled with energy. Fans waved Philippine flags. Alex's name echoed around the venue. But once the first point began, the crowd disappeared into the background. Now it was about patterns. Serve against return. Forehand against forehand. Movement against timing. Alex started with confidence. She did not play as though she was simply trying to survive against a top 10 opponent. She stepped into the court and looked for opportunities. Her movement was sharp, her ball striking was clean, and she refused to allow Anisimova to settle immediately. That was important. Against a player with Anisimova's power, hesitation can be fatal. If you give her time, she can turn one neutral ball into an attacking shot. If you defend too far behind the baseline, she can keep you there. Alex understood that she had to stay engaged. Her left-handed patterns also gave Anisimova different looks. The ball arrived from angles that can be uncomfortable for a right-handed opponent, particularly when Alex was able to open the court and attack the next shot. The Americans still produced moments of spectacular power, but Alex kept answering. And then came the first major statement. Alex won the opening set 6-4. The player who had already beaten multiple elite opponents during her recent run was now one set away from another major victory. The crowd had every reason to believe, but Anisimova had not reached the highest levels of tennis by panicking after losing a set. She adjusted, and that adjustment changed everything. The second set became a completely different contest. Anisimova began looking for earlier contact. Her returns became more aggressive, and she worked to prevent Alex from constructing points at her preferred pace. This is one of the hardest parts of professional tennis to handle. You can have the right game plan. You can execute it successfully for an entire set. Then the opponent finds a weakness in the pattern. Suddenly, the serve that was earning a short ball is being attacked. The rally that was ending in your favor is ending one shot earlier. The opponent is standing closer. The points become shorter. And now you need a second solution. That was the challenge facing Alex. Anisimova's power began to take more control of the exchanges. She was striking the ball earlier and making Alex work harder to create openings. Alex continued fighting, but the momentum was changing. Anisimova took the second set 6-4. One set all. The match had been reset, but the psychological balance had shifted. Now Alex had to respond to an opponent who had found a more effective rhythm. That is where elite tennis becomes less about individual shots and more about adaptation. A player can have the better forehand and still lose. A player can serve well and still lose. A player can win the first set and still lose. The difference is often what happens after the opponent figures out your first plan. The deciding set exposed that difference. Anisimova continued taking time away. She attacked shorter balls. She made Alex defend more often. Instead of allowing Alex to dictate the shape of the rallies, she forced Alex to react. That is a subtle but enormous change. When you are dictating, you choose where the next ball goes. When you are reacting, the opponent has already made the first decision. Anisimova was increasingly making those decisions. Alex still produced quality points, but she was no longer controlling the match in the same way she had in the opening set. The Americans' pressure continued to build, and eventually, the third set moved decisively in Anisimova's direction. She won it 6-2. The final score was 4-6, 6-4, 6-2. Alex was out of Cincinnati. The dream run had ended. But if you only look at the final score, you miss the most important part of the match. This was not evidence that Alex suddenly stopped being capable of competing with elite players. The first set proved the opposite. She had already shown that her level was high enough to trouble Anisimova. The real issue was sustaining that level after the match changed. That is a much more specific challenge. And importantly, it is one that can be addressed. The first lesson is about the serve. Against elite returners, Serving is not only about producing aces. It is about deciding what happens next. Where does the serve land? What position does the returner take? What shot becomes available after the return? Can the server predict the likely direction? At this level, the serve and the first ball are often one tactical package. If Anisimova was able to attack the return and immediately take control, Alex was forced into defensive tennis earlier than she wanted. The second lesson is about handling pace. Alex's game is not built around simply hitting harder than everyone else. Her strength comes from combining pace with variation. She can change direction. She can create unusual angles. She can redirect an opponent's power. But against a player like Anisimova, variation has to be used at exactly the right moment. Too much variation can become passive. Too little variation allows the opponent to settle. The ideal balance is to make the opponent uncertain without giving away control of the point. That is a skill Alex will continue developing. The third lesson is perhaps the biggest one: mid-match adaptation. Great players do not simply have one identity. They have layers. If the baseline exchange is not working, they change position. If the opponent is attacking the second serve, they change location. If the opponent is standing deep, they bring them forward. If the opponent is rushing the ball, they change pace. Alex already has many of these tools. The next step is using them more quickly when the match begins moving away from her. There is also the physical context. Alex had been playing an enormous amount of tennis. She had won a WTA title in Washington. She had made another strong run in Toronto. She had continued into Cincinnati. That workload matters, even when a player refuses to use it as an excuse. Fatigue is not simply about feeling tired. It can affect reaction speed. It can reduce precision. It can make recovery between points harder. It can make the legs slightly slower when changing direction.